Okay, let's bring in Mehmet Celik, who's the editorial coordinator of the Daily Sabah. He joins me live from Istanbul. Good afternoon to you, Mehmet. If we talk specifically about President Erdogan's relationship with incoming President Trump, I mean, Donald Trump is a friend of Israel. How do you see the two finding agreements, for example, when it comes to Gaza?
Well, this is something that time will show, and I say that because how Trump will react and how Trump will make policies in this term, I think we will basically shape his relationship with the region in general, but specifically with Mr. Erdogan as well. His previous terms, there were ups and downs in the relationship, but overall, we can say that there was a leader-to-leader diplomatic relation between the two leaders, as Trump was handling his relationship with Turkey on transactional basis and very pragmatically. But things have changed drastically since his last term. We have the Ukraine-Russia war. We have the Israeli genocide in the Middle East against the Palestinians. Many things have shifted, and how Trump will reshape his policies based on the recent developments, I think, will be very determinant factors, and that will affect his relationship with Mr. Erdogan very directly. One of the key issues that will be perhaps a point of disagreement between the two leaders is the issue in Gaza and in Palestine, as they have 100% different positions when it comes to Israel's actions against the Palestinians. But I think in overall matters when it comes to region, how the U.S. policy will act when it comes to pulling away from Syria and Iraq, and how they will take their relationship to a different level with the GCC or the Gulf countries, I think Turkey will play a very significant role in that sense. But when it comes to Palestine, and also when it comes to other issues like the U.S. support to YPG, perhaps these will be some of the difficult files on the agenda. But again, we should not forget that Trump is a very, for the lack of a better word, unpredictable leader. And how he will form this relationship with Mr. Erdogan, I think this is something that time will show. But these two specific issues, Israel's actions in the region and the U.S. support to YPG, these will be two of the tough topics that the two leaders will have to somehow work together to overcome. But it is not going to be an easy task for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it there. President Erdogan talked about Syria and his concerns about the terrorist groups operating out of the area. But he also talked in a different part of the interview about the fact that Donald Trump is a businessman and there's opportunities there on the trade front. Do you think this is the job of being a statesperson, that you separate the two, the big geopolitical issues, and that these guys will separate them from the transactional business opportunities?
I mean, one of the reasons why Turkey has been very successful in foreign policy is that Turkey has compartmentalized its relations with powers that it has very disagreeing points. Like with Russia, for example, there is a different position when it comes to Syria and Ukraine, but when it comes to business or energy, let's say, they're able to work together. I think this is something that Mr. Erdogan wants to establish with Mr. Trump, as well as Turkey's relationship. When it comes to trade, for example, it is a point, or it's an area where it can be further developed. In the previous terms, they had a very, 100 billion goal, which has not been really achieved yet. But if they're able to achieve this, it could pave the way for other matters that are, more difficult to agree on. But this leadership, when it comes to diplomacy, when it comes to international politics, it is not something that he's known for, but he is a businessman that can separate what can benefit him and from those that can actually be to his disadvantage when it comes to U.S. foreign policy. But I think one point we should also acknowledge is that whether U.S. foreign policy is largely shaped by leaders or by other established institutions within the United States. So how much freedom Trump will have in establishing his own steps when it comes to Turkey, when it comes to Middle East at large, I think that will also be very dependent on his relationship with the other established institutions within the United States. Whether he will have that freedom or not, it is also something that time will show. But he can work with on transactional basis, I think he can very easily work with Mr. Erdogan if his team also has an open mind when it comes to where they want to place Turkey in the larger geopolitical agenda for the Middle East.
We'll have to wrap it up there. Great to speak to you, though. Mehmet Celik's my guest, editorial coordinator at the Daily Sabah.